Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! I live in a busy city and taking the bus to work is a part of my daily routine. Most days it's an uneventful ride, but every now and then something unforgettable happens. This story is about one of those unforgettable days. It was a normal Monday morning. I was running late for work as usual, rushing to catch my usual bus. The bus arrived and I hopped on, finding an empty seat near the back. Little did I know that this would be the start of a bizarre and frustrating journey. The bus route was usually a straightforward one, taking us through the heart of the city. But as we approached the busy intersection, the bus suddenly came to a halt. I heard the collective groan from the passengers as we all wondered what was going on. I leaned forward to get a better view out of the window, and there it was, a massive construction site right in front of us. Traffic was at a standstill, and it didn't look like it would be moving anytime soon. The bus driver, a stout and grumpy-looking man, turned to us with a scowl. "Sorry folks, we're stuck in traffic," he mumbled without much emotion. I looked at my watch and sighed. I was already late, and this unexpected delay was the last thing I needed. But hey, I thought, it's not the driver's fault, and we all have to deal with traffic jams from time to time. Minutes turned into tens of minutes, and the frustration on the bus grew. People were getting anxious. One lady near the front began talking loudly on her phone, clearly agitated. Another passenger, a businessman in a suit, started tapping his foot impatiently. I decided to take out my phone and try to make the best out of the situation. I had some work emails to catch up on, so why not use this time productively? I had my earphones in and was focused on my phone when I suddenly felt a jolt. The bus had moved forward slightly and the passengers let out a cheer. But the celebration was short-lived because once again we came to a dead stop. And that's when I noticed something odd. The bus driver wasn't trying to navigate through the traffic or find an alternate route. He was just sitting there seemingly unfazed by the growing frustration of the passengers. I turned to the person next to me, a middle-aged man with a briefcase. "Hey, do you think the driver should try to find another way? We're stuck here," I said, trying to keep my frustration in check. The man looked at me and replied, "Yeah, this is ridiculous. He's not even trying to get us out of here." A few more minutes passed and the tension on the bus reached its breaking point. The businessman in a suit, who had been tapping his foot impatiently earlier, stood up and marched to the front of the bus. "Hey driver, can you do something about this traffic? We're all going to be late here," he yelled. The bus driver turned to him, his expression unchanged. "I can't control traffic, buddy. We'll move when we move." The businessman, clearly not satisfied with this response, started arguing with the driver. He demanded to speak to the supervisor or someone who could help. The rest of us watched, torn between frustration and curiosity. The argument between the businessman and the bus driver escalated quickly. The businessman was red-faced and shouting, while the driver remained stubborn and uncooperative. It was like watching a verbal boxing match, and then the unexpected happened. The businessman, in a fit of frustration, pushed the emergency button to open the bus doors. The loud hissing sound of the doors opening caught everyone's attention. He stepped out of the bus, waving his arms at the other passengers. "Come on everybody, let's get off this bus. This guy is useless," he exclaimed. Passengers began pouring out of the bus, tired of being stuck in traffic with no end in sight. I thought about my own predicament. I was already late for work, and this wasn't helping. I decided to join the exodus of passengers leaving the bus. As I stepped onto the sidewalk, I turned to see a group of disgruntled commuters forming a sort of impromptu protest. The bus driver, now facing a nearly empty bus, looked bewildered. He scrambled to close the doors and shouted at the departing passengers, "You can't just leave the bus like that! Get back on!" But nobody listened to him. The passengers were fed up and they weren't listening to him anymore. They had taken matters into their own hands, and the scene on the sidewalk was chaotic. I decided to hang back and watch from a safe distance. The police had arrived and they were trying to make sense of the situation. They approached the bus driver and asked him what had happened. "I was doing my job and they all got off the bus without my permission," he said, pointing at the departing passengers. The police officers didn't seem pleased with this explanation. They started talking to the passengers who had left the bus, trying to get their side of the story. I overheard one officer saying, "We can't have passengers abandoning a bus like this in the middle of a traffic. It's a safety hazard." I couldn't help but agree with the officer. What the passengers did might have been justified in their frustration, but it was also risky. Still, it was clear that the bus driver's attitude had contributed to the situation. As the police continued their investigation, more and more passengers shared their frustration with the officers. It seemed like the tide was turning against the bus driver, and that's when I heard someone mention that they had recorded the whole incident on their phone. The passenger, with the video footage, handed their phone to one of the officers. The video showed the bus driver's refusal to communicate with the passengers, his unhelpful responses, and the tense argument with a businessman that led to the passengers leaving the bus. The officers watched the video and nodded. They seemed to have seen enough. They approached the bus driver and said, "Sir, you're under arrest for endangering the safety of the passengers and for failing to cooperate with law enforcement." The bus driver's eyes widened in shock and he stammered, "Arrest? What are you talking about?" But the officers weren't playing around. They handcuffed the bus driver and led him away from the bus. The police took statements from the passengers who had witnessed the whole ordeal. We all recounted what had happened, emphasizing the bus driver's uncooperative behavior and refusal to address the situation properly. It was clear that he had put his ego before the safety and well-being of the passengers. As the police completed their investigation, they informed us that another bus would arrive shortly to pick us up and take us to our destinations. It was a small consolation for the inconvenience we had all endured, but at least it was something. I finally arrived at work late and flustered, but with a story to tell. As for the bus driver, well, he faced consequences. He was suspended from his job pending an internal investigation, and his arrest had serious implications for his future employment. I don't know, guys, what do you think about this story specifically? Something seems off to me. I am really interested in reading your comments about this specific story because, I don't know, to me something seemed off. Let's get to the next one. First of all, I'm gonna update on my injured foot. I was just fine, lots and lots of bruising and the occasional pain still, but I did take a little break and stayed off of it. I'm all healed now. Second, guess who managed to show her face again? The crazy lady. And I guess she figured out the easy trick of changing her appearance a bit and came with someone else and went back in, no issues. My Walmart is usually good about this kind of stuff, but I guess not this time. Third, this was not very recent. This was around when the virus was starting to become apparent, and before all the stores were shutting down and people were self-isolating. And of course, I just so happened to be there again with my blue lanyard, a pair of jeans, and a sweatshirt. I was shopping around picking up a few unnecessary objects, and I saw her staring at me at one point and waved, earning no reaction other than a scoff. I knew she looked familiar, but I couldn't place her face. I work 3 jobs and I see about a bazillion different faces a day, and have trouble remembering unless I see that person more than a few times. What I didn't notice for a while, I'm unobservant as hell, was that she was following me. For how long, I don't know, but I noticed I was seeing her everywhere. The auto center, office supplies, dairy, baking supplies, even toys. I didn't know what she wanted from me. She had another woman with her too. Dark-haired, pop-cut, dark makeup, and a t-shirt with jeans and heels. She just had this dark scowl on her face as they followed me. I didn't recognize her either, until I heard the crazy lady's voice. That horribly shrill voice that haunted my nightmares when my foot hurt and sent chills down my spine and dogs running. We were in the craft aisle where I was looking for a specific type of paint. I noticed them again and I guess I looked a little too long. The crazy lady turned to who I will call the entitled lady and grabbed that paintable sign at random. She says loudly, "Look at this! Doesn't this look perfect?" That made my brain do a 360. Dear God, why was she here? She wasn't supposed to be here. The entitled lady tells her, "Oh mom, it's great." She turned to me. "Isn't this just wonderful?" I gave a quick nod, grabbing the next best thing to what I needed. I needed matte fabric paint. If you're curious, I grabbed slick instead, and I started to leave. They kept following me, and I grabbed a pair of jeans and hid in a change room. It felt like an eternity waiting for the door to be unlocked, but luckily the crazy lady's scooter got stuck. I sat on a bench and waited to see if I lost him, but suddenly, bang bang bang. I couldn't help but scream as the flimsy door to the changing room nearly fell off its hinge. "Get out of here! We know who you are! You owe my mother for what you did!" Bang bang bang. I just sat in a corner and watched in horror as the door fell to the ground. I had to put my hands up to catch it and push it away. Otherwise, it would have landed on my head. She looked at the ripped-apart wall from where the hinges had been ripped off, and she shrugged before climbing over and getting in my face. "You'll be coming with me. You owe my mother compensation for getting her banned." Me shrinking into the corner. "No, I won't. Leave me alone. Your mother shouldn't be here if she's banned." I probably shouldn't have said that because it more than likely prompted what happened next. But I've never been one to say the right thing. The entitled daughter grabbed me by my hair and pulled me out of the changing room, pulling me over to the crazy Karen, who was sitting there looking smug. The daughter literally threw me on the ground by pushing me on my head and letting me go. "Apologize now." I sat there shaking, and both women started shouting again, screaming that I owed them. Thankfully, this didn't last too long, as the associate who was posted at the changing room, they never stuck around long once someone was in the changing room or if no one was around. And another worker came over, separating the three of us. While the associate was helping me off the floor, the crazy lady actually got up from her motorized scooter and tried to lunge at me. I held my hand out so that it caught her and pushed her back. She started screaming about how I assaulted her, and one of the associates pretty much told her to shut up and wait for the police. Well, they showed up, and since there were a few security cameras nearby, of all the things, this Walmart is concerned with things being stolen via changing room tricks, and a few witnesses, including the poor lady in a room next to me, who was so scared that someone was coming for her next. Apparently, when the door fell, the corner of the door cracked the wall to her room. And due to what happened last time, and even despite how I usually react to these kind of things, I pressed charges. Both women went away for multiple things: assault, destruction of property, trespassing, etc., etc. Hopefully, I won't have to have this kind of thing happen again. Having to re-meet the entitled people in my life might be worse than meeting more. This happened back when the store still had toilet paper. That was before quarantine. Meet the cast. Me, the entitled woman, and a security dude. So, for some background information, my family and I run a petting zoo at an agriculture festival near a research center. We live in a small farming town. We have a petting zoo stand type thing, where we have a ton of farm animals up for view or petting. Some of those animals are baby chicks that need to be taken back to the research center, that need to be placed under a heat lamp and exchanged with another batch of chicks every 15 minutes. I was swapping them out. We transport them in a box that I need to carry with both hands. The door to the lab was closed. The heat lamp was in the lab. They were hatched by the research center for study, I guess. I'm not really sure. So I asked the entitled woman to open the door in an interaction that went like this. Excuse me, ma'am, could you open the door for me?" "Why should I?" I was taken aback. "Pardon me?" "You don't work at the lab, so I'm not letting you in." "Ma'am, I have some chicks in this box, and I need to get into the lab to get these chicks under a light." "Yeah, right. Security! Security!" The security guard walks over as people turn their heads. What seems to be the issue here? "This strange man is trying to get into the lab." I was not strange. I was wearing a black shirt that said staff in big white letters on the front and the back. "Sir, why do you need to get in the lab?" "I have these baby chicks and I need to get them under the heat lamp in the lab." "Well, he seems alright," he says as he opens the door. "No, don't let him in there," she says as she pushes the security guard out of the way and tries to pull the box out of my hand. "Ma'am, stop." The security guard tells her, "These are living things that will die soon if you don't let them in. And sir, carry on about your day." "Oh, thank you." I go in to exchange checks and tell the story to the rest of my family. Later on, I had just finished my snack and was heading back to our petting zoo area when I noticed a commotion up ahead. Crowd had gathered around a booth that was selling handmade crafts, and a familiar voice was causing quite a scene. The entitled woman shouting, "I demand to speak to the manager. This is outrageous." I couldn't believe my eyes. It was the entitled woman again, and she was creating a scene at another booth. This time, it seemed she was unhappy with a purchase. I decided to approach the situation cautiously, wanting to see if I could lend a hand or offer some advice to defuse the situation. The vendor says, "Ma'am, I apologize if there is an issue with your purchase. Please tell me what seems to be the problem, and we will do our best to resolve it." "This necklace I bought is cheap. It's probably made of plastic. I demand a refund immediately." As I got closer, I could see the necklace in question, and it was indeed a bit flimsy, but it was clearly labeled as costume jewelry. The price tag was quite low, and it was meant to be a fun, affordable accessory. "I'm sorry if the necklace didn't meet your expectations, ma'am. We can certainly process a refund for you. Do you have the receipt?" Of course I had the receipt, but that's not the point. I shouldn't have to deal with such subpar products at this festival. This is unacceptable. I stepped forward, hoping to offer some perspective and maybe help the vendor resolve the situation. "Excuse me, ma'am." I couldn't tell but overhear the conversation. It appears the vendor is willing to provide you with a refund. Perhaps it was just a misunderstanding. We can all resolve this peacefully. "You? I remember you. You're the one who tried to sneak into that lab earlier with those fake checks." "Ma'am, that was a misunderstanding too. I work at the petting zoo here and those were real baby chicks that needed proper care. Now about this situation, let's focus on getting you a refund so that you can enjoy the rest of your time at the festival." "Yes, please. Let's resolve this. Here is your refund, ma'am," the vendor says. The entitled woman snatches a refund from the vendor's hand, still fuming. "Well, you better improve the quality of your products next time. This festival is going downhill." With that, she stormed away, leaving the vendor and me slightly baffled by her entitled attitude. I couldn't believe I had encountered her twice in a day, and both times over the most trivial matters. Vendor tells me, "Thank you for your help. I appreciate it." No problem at all. People can be a little difficult sometimes, but most folks here are just looking to have a good time. I'll keep an eye out for any more trouble. I later shared the story with my family once again, and we had a good laugh about it. Little did we know that this wouldn't be the last tweet scene of this entitled woman. The next day the festival continued and we were back at our petting zoo, tending to the animals and ensuring that everyone had a fantastic time. Despite the previous day's encounters, we were in high spirits, determined not to let one entitled individual dampen our enthusiasm. As the day wore on, I noticed the same entitled woman approaching our petting zoo. She had a scowl on her face and I couldn't help but feel a sense of dread. I alerted my family and we prepared ourselves for another potential confrontation. I can't believe you people are still allowed to operate here after what happened yesterday." "Ma'am, we're just here to provide a fun experience for families and children. If you have any concerns, please let us know and we will do our best to address them," she says sarcastically. "Oh, I have concerns, alright. I heard that you were letting people pet those filthy animals without proper sanitation." "I assure you, ma'am, we take hygiene very seriously. We have hand sanitizers available for all our visitors. We regularly clean and sanitize the petting areas." "I don't believe a word of it. You're probably spreading diseases all over the place." My family and I exchanged worried looks. It was clear that this entitled woman was on a mission to cause trouble yet again. "Ma'am, we work closely with local health authorities to ensure that our petting zoo is safe for everyone. We take every precaution to maintain a clean and healthy environment." "Well, I'm not convinced. I demand to speak to your manager." "Ma'am, we don't have a manager on site. We're a family-run operation and I'm here to address any concerns you may have. Is there something specific you'd like to discuss?" "I want a full refund for my ticket. I'm not letting my children near this germ-infested place." My family and I were taken aback by her request. We had never encountered such an unreasonable demand before. Ma'am, I understand your concern, but I'm afraid we can't issue refunds for tickets based on your perception of our petting zoo. We do our best to provide a safe and enjoyable experience for all the visitors.
This is unacceptable. I demand a refund, and I'm going to report this place to the authorities.
Well, if that's what you feel you need to do, ma'am, you're welcome to do so, but please understand that we have many satisfied visitors who appreciate the experience we offer. With that, the entitled woman huffed and stormed away, leaving my family and me once again baffled by her unreasonable behavior. We wondered why she was so determined to cause trouble at the festival. The rest of the day went by without any further incident, but as we were packing up our petting zoo area and getting ready to leave, the entitled woman returned, this time with a festival organizer in tow. The organizer says, "Excuse me, are you the owners of this petting zoo?" "Yes, we are. Is there a problem?" "This visitor has made several complaints about your operation, and she insists on a full refund for her ticket. She claims that your petting zoo is unsanitary and dangerous." We couldn't believe that the entitled woman had escalated the situation to this extent. I tell him, we've already explained to her that we take hygiene seriously, and that we cannot issue a refund based on her unfounded complaints. We've had many satisfied visitors today, and we believe our petting zoo provides a safe and enjoyable experience. I understand, but we have to take all the complaints seriously. We may have to investigate this matter further. Well, if that's what you feel you need to do, then please go ahead. We have nothing to hide, and we will cooperate fully with any investigation. This entitled woman wore a self-satisfied smirk on her face, believing that she had finally gotten her way. My family and I continued to pack up, feeling frustrated and exhausted by the entire ordeal. We couldn't believe but wonder what had driven this woman to be so unreasonable and determined to cause trouble. In the days that followed, we cooperated with the festival organizers and health authorities, providing them with all the necessary information and documentation to prove the safety and cleanliness of our petting zoo. It was an inconvenience, but we were determined to clear our name and ensure that our petting zoo could continue to be a beloved part of this festival. Ultimately, the investigation concluded that there was no validity to the entitled woman's complaints. Our petting zoo was deemed safe and sanitary, and we received an apology from the festival organizers for the inconvenience we had endured. We then made a complaint about this lady and how she kept causing troubles with lots of people here, and especially us, and after investigating her case, she got banned from ever coming back, and we also decided to press charges for harassment. Hopefully, she will get what she deserves. I'll keep you updated.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.